Whatnot is the sponsor of today's video. Thank you for your support.
Hello everybody, Silver Picker here, and in today's video we are going to be talking about whether or not you should be investing your hard-earned money into gold, into silver, into both, into neither this year in 2024. And we're going to be looking at some delicious, delicious gold and silver coins and other things while we're doing it. Now, this video is going to cover all of the basics, so if you are new to silver stacking, just dipping your toes into the waters, this is great for you. But if you are also a veteran gold bug, you're going to learn something here as well. And the best part is, you got a comment section down below, so if there's something you guys disagree with me about or something that was unclear, let me know in the comments below. I want to hear about it. That is the best way for us all to learn. Remember, this is about growing the community. So we're talking about whether or not to invest in gold and silver in 2024. Well, I also want to grow the gold and silver community overall in 2024, and this video is a part of that. So why don't we start by easing into all this and taking a look at some of the different types of gold and silver that I have here. And this will help some of the newbies learn what the opportunities are there out there for investing in physical precious metals like gold and silver. So first off, over here, you see a bunch of different silver coins. These are mostly government issue bullion coins, like this bad boy over here. This is the American Silver Eagle, which I will knowingly, erroneously, and ridiculously describe as the gold standard of silver bullion. Yes, this is the gold standard of silver bullion. I'm aware of how ridiculous that sounds, but everybody knows and loves the American Silver Eagle. It's a 1 ounce silver coin produced by the US government. But lots of different governments produce 1 ounce silver coins, like this is the Australian Kookaburra, we've got the South African Silver Krugerrand, and we've got some British coins. This is a British silver, I think this is called like from the Beast series or something, and this is a Austrian Philharmoniker. Lots of cool stuff. We also have some junk silver. This is American junk silver. We call it junk silver not because it's junk, but it is the old coins pre-1965, so 1964 and earlier, that were produced containing 90% silver. So this 1964 Kennedy half dollar is 90% silver. And because of the low premiums, investors and collectors love them. We also have some generic bars over here. These are American flag bars, generic in the sense that they are not produced by a government. But we also have things that are more common to non-coin collectors or precious metals investors. We've got jewelry. We've got all sorts of different jewelry. This is all sterling silver, or 92.5% silver. And that is also a reasonable way to invest in precious metals too. Not just, you don't have to have all the fancy coins. You could just get a whole bunch of that silver, and as I always say, silver is silver. And onto the gold side, which I absolutely love, we've got a couple of gold Krugerrands. These are South African gold coins, and these are, I guess you could say, almost the gold standard, not erroneously, not misnomeredly, or whatever the word would be. This is like the gold standard of gold coins. So these are gold bullion coins, 1 ounce gold bullion coins from South Africa. Even non-silver stackers and gold bugs have heard of Krugerrands. It's like a pretty famous name of a coin, right? And I've got a bunch of other gold coins over here. I have some graded gold coins. This one's pretty cool. This is the PCGS AU58 Gold Liberty, and from 1877. This was such a fiasco getting this coin graded, but that's for another time. You can see the video of it over here if you're curious, but that's a story for another time. I've also got a little 10-karat gold bracelet over here and some beautiful, chunky 18-karat gold cufflinks. Ooh, and before I forget, I just want to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Whatnot. Whatnot is an incredible place to dip your toes into the world of precious metals because there are incredible deals to be had. If you don't know what Whatnot is an incredible live video auction platform in which bidders and sellers come together in real time to buy and sell all sorts of cool collectibles. Obviously, I'm mostly into precious metals and coins, but they've got everything. They've got trading cards, sports cards, comic books, video games, even sneakers. Basically, if you collect it, they have it. And if you use my link, whatnot.com/invite/silverpicker, to download the app, not only do you get access to this incredible platform for free, but you also get $15 in Whatnot credit to spend on anything you want. And at all of my auctions, I always have tons and tons of silver coins in the buy it now for $15 or less. So you're basically guaranteed to get free silver coins just by using my link. Again, whatnot.com/invite/silverpicker. Check out the platform. There's lots of great sellers selling incredible silver and gold coins at incredible deals. And of course, you get that $15 free. Don't sleep on it because that deal will not last forever. Anyway, back to business. This was just an idea to give you a little tour of what we have over here. But I want to also start with some of the basics and say, why would somebody want to invest in precious metals in the first place, right? Well, there are a few reasons, but I'll cover the three basic ones. I actually did a video on the pros and cons of stacking silver just a few weeks ago, and you can check that out in the card over here. We're going to go way further in depth than that video, but basically there are a few reasons why you might want to invest in precious metals. The first is speculative, right? Just like any investment, buy low, sell high, right? You think the price of gold and silver is low, you think it's going to go up, so you invest your money, you buy some, hold it until it goes up, and then you sell it and make a profit. That's one reason. Another reason is that gold and silver have shown over time to be an incredible hedge against inflation. That means if, let's say, you earn your salary and you have it in dollars or euros or rubles or whatever, right? That money is definitely prone to inflation, meaning a dollar that you have today, maybe in a few years, will lose purchasing power and you'll need $2 to buy the same thing, right? We've seen that, of course, over time. I mean, think of what it used to cost, 20 years ago to buy a slice of pizza and now how much more it is today, right? So inflation is something everybody, more or less understands, at least at that basic level. The difference with gold and silver is that the value of gold and silver relative to dollars and euros and rubles stays more consistent over the course of time and does not lose its purchasing power. Meaning, let's say gold and silver was $10 an ounce, 20, 30 years ago. Now, at $24 an ounce, it has retained its purchasing power even though it's that same 1 ounce of silver. So I explained that more in depth in the video that I just mentioned, but that is another really good reason why you might want to invest in gold and silver. The third, and in my opinion, one of the most important ones, although it's a little bit wacky sounding, is that it is a really, really good rainy day fund for those emergency, zombie apocalypse SHTF situations, right? We don't expect those things to happen. We don't want those things to happen, but we see that there is a lot of craziness going on in the world right now. I mean, we just came off the tails of COVID, right? A global pandemic like the world has not seen in 100 years. We have, the war in Ukraine. We have a lot of turmoil in some African and some South American countries. Of course, what's going on in Israel right now. There are a lot of different things going on in the world right now that might, if you lived in one of those places, you might want to have some gold and silver, some hard money, right? Nothing that's tied to your particular government that is at the whim of inflation or embargo or sanction or anything like that. Having some hard money like gold and silver really could mean the difference between, life and death, survival, right? I don't want to get too crazy about it. I don't want to sound like a kook, but there are scenarios where having gold and silver really can save your life, get you out of a jam, and help, save you and your family. So I will say, first off, that in my personal opinion, it is not a great idea to invest in gold and silver as a speculative investment. Over the course of time, if you look at the S&P 500 compared to gold, for instance, the S&P 500 over time beats out the price of gold in terms of investment, right? You'll earn more money investing in the S&P 500 or in other traditional stocks or other traditional investments more than you will make on gold and silver. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't have gold and silver, right? The goal of a balanced portfolio is not just to make the absolute most amount of money as possible. It also accounts for risk tolerances. It also accounts for your own life cycle, right? That's why we save for retirement. So I think that the other two reasons, right? Parking your money in gold and silver instead of in cash, right, is a great way to hedge against inflation. And I think it's also important to have a little, emergency rainy day fund, let's say, in gold and silver. So this is just more for the beginners to understand why you might want to invest in gold and silver in general. But we're here to talk about 2024, right? The here and now. So right now, the price of silver is just exactly $23 an ounce, and the price of gold is $2,047 an ounce. So we're going to talk about two different things here. One, we're going to talk a little bit historically about the gold and silver prices, what today's prices mean in the context of, say, like the last 10, 15 years, and what that means going forward, or what we can surmise going forward. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about the gold and silver ratio. And if you don't know what that is, I'll explain it in a minute. But that's a very important tool to use when evaluating whether or not you should be buying more gold or silver. So right now we're looking at a graph of the gold price from 1994 to 2024, so a 30-year gold price. You can see that back from the 90s all the way up until the early 2000s, gold was really just $400 an ounce, right? It didn't really start spiking until we see 2006, 2008, 2010, and then of course the crazy run in 2011 of both gold and silver, where gold hit its all-time high, where it, by the way, is at right now, more or less. So now we move over to the silver chart, and by the way, it's a shorter chart. This one starts in 2008 and goes to today, but it still has this big spike in 2011, just like in the gold chart, and that's what we're really going to be focusing on in a minute. But you see it goes up to its almost all-time high at $50 an ounce, and then starts to come down in the next coming years. And for a little while, it's really low. For a couple of years, it's in sort of that like $10 to $15 range, which, by the way, I bought a bunch then, and I'm pretty stoked about that. But in any case, it stays there for a while, and then in the last 2-3 years, so in about 2020, it starts to go up again, and it has a little bit of a rally, and it goes up to $28, $29, and then sort of stays in that area between $22 and $28 an ounce for the last few years, with today, of course, the price being $23 an ounce. So I want to come back to 2011 because that's a really important year for silver and gold, and it's something that will sort of explain whether or not we can expect those kind of huge jumps, going forward. So what happened in 2008 to make gold and silver both hit their all-time highs and just spike up like crazy? Well, first off, for silver, there was a bunch of extra industrial demand, right? Right around then, solar panel usage was going through the roof. Sorry, that was a ridiculous unintended, not pun, but you know what I mean. So solar panels were going through the roof, and that demand really increased the demand for silver as well. Same thing with gold. Gold is used in all sorts of electronics, in cell phones, computers, etc., and demand really was spiking. But more important to that, we were coming off the tail of the 2008-2009 financial crisis. And what happens when you have a big financial crisis? Well, investors start to go towards safe haven investments. And what's a safer haven than gold and silver? Well, not much. So lots of investors, both individuals and institutions, started to pour tons and tons of money into gold and silver investments. And you had way more individual investors that were entering into this market. Like lots of people who had never invested in gold and silver, by the way, like yours truly, got into gold and silver at this time. Now, the people who bought at very high prices, they lost their shirts, right? They're buying at $50 an ounce and expecting it to go to 100. Well, guess what? It didn't. And in addition to all these individual investors coming in, lots of institutional investors, so banks, hedge funds, etc., started making big investments into gold and silver, and that also drove up the price. Now, I believe that because of that, actually, the SEC changed some of the rules and some of the laws around how institutions can invest in precious metals to prevent some of these like crazy spikes in volatility, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Somebody can fact check me down there in the comments below. Anyway, those are the factors that generally led to this crazy rise in gold and silver prices. So how does that look today, right? So today, we also have a lot of turmoil. We don't have a global financial crisis, but we have a lot of craziness going on in the world right now. We've got wars in Israel, we've got wars in Ukraine. There's a lot heating up in the Middle East generally between the US, Europe, and some of the Middle Eastern Iranian proxies. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now that could influence people to drive their investments towards safe havens like gold and silver, which would, of course, raise the price. But there's no direct evidence that we're going to have some crazy run. Every time I hear a YouTuber or someone else predict that silver is going to go to $50 or $100 an ounce, or gold is going to go to $3,000 or $5,000 an ounce, I always say, how do you know? Why? What are some of the signs? What's the evidence? And I never get a good answer. So I think you should be really wary when you're listening to a YouTuber who is basically promising you crazy riches just by buying gold and silver now, because that honestly is just not what's going to happen. So anyway, we talked a little bit about what the prices are today and sort of what led to some of the big spikes in previous years, and you can do with that information what you want, right? I should point out, I am not a licensed financial advisor. This should not be construed as financial advice. This is just a guy making a YouTube video that's passionate about precious metals and coins. So that's my disclaimer. So I also said that I would talk a little bit about the gold-silver ratio. So the gold-silver ratio is essentially the price of gold over the price of silver. And what that really means is how many ounces of silver does it take to buy 1 ounce of gold, right? So let's say gold was $1,000 an ounce, and silver was $10 an ounce, right? That would mean you've got 1,000 over 10, so the gold-silver ratio would be 100, right? It would take 100 ounces of silver in that case to buy 1 ounce of gold. But let's take a look. What if you had the gold-silver ratio, it was $1,000 an ounce, but silver was $100 an ounce? Then that would be 1,000 over 100, and it would make the gold-silver ratio 10. You would only need 10 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. Now, if you look at the gold-silver ratio over time, right, you can see that it goes up and down, and you can see that in 2014, it was, 60, 65, and when you go all the way up to this big spike in 2020, you've got it at 114, and then it comes back down to sort of that like 70 to 80 range, or that 75 to 85 range. And what does that mean, right? Well, I'm not going to tell you whether or not a specific gold-silver ratio means you should buy more gold or buy more silver, but generally, a higher gold-to-silver ratio implies that silver is undervalued, meaning it takes more ounces of silver to buy the same ounce of gold. So if you look at it over time, right, you've got the same 1 ounce of gold, but if it takes you more silver ounces to buy a gold ounce, it means that you are likely saying that each of those silver ounces is worth less. And because gold and silver generally move together in value, right, the demand increases for both generally together, if that gap grows, well, then you could say, well, I think maybe it's time to buy some more silver because we do want to have that gold-silver ratio come back to its mean, right? So I'm not going to tell you one way or another whether or not you should be buying gold or silver based on the current gold and silver ratio, because I think that that would be very irresponsible. But I do think that you can take a look at the chart and interpret it for yourself. And if you think that based on that chart, silver is undervalued or gold is undervalued, then you can make your decision about whether to put more money into gold or more money into silver. So that brings us to, well, what should you actually do, right? I just gave you, at the beginning of the video, a bunch of reasons why generally you might want to buy precious metals, and then we talked about the price today relative to the high prices in 2011, what do we think is going to happen, the gold-silver ratio, how to interpret that chart, etc., etc. But should you actually be buying precious metals with your hard-earned money today? Well, that is going to be a personal decision. I know that's a little bit of a letdown of an answer, but for me, let's say, I am going to be buying more gold and I'm going to be buying a little bit more silver this year because I'm not interested in the speculative side. I don't care whether gold or silver goes to the moon, right? For me, I'm buying it because I want to protect my dollars against inflation, right? I keep cash in dollars and shekels, and I want to protect those against inflation. So for me, I'd rather have more of that in gold and silver so that in the event that the world gets crazier and crazier, at least I know I'm not losing purchasing power like I would if I kept that money just in cash in the bank. So for me, it makes sense to buy more gold and silver this year. And as an added bonus, because the world is getting crazier and crazier, it certainly doesn't hurt to have that extra rainy day emergency, zombie apocalypse, SHTF situation emergency fund. So for me, I am planning on buying more gold and silver. For me, I'm mostly more interested in gold these days. It takes up less room, it's bigger, bigger bang for your buck. Like I said, I keep my stuff at the safety deposit box, so real estate there, you got a little box. Real estate there is expensive, so having gold is a little bit better for me. But what do I always say to my friends that ask me if they should be getting into investing in precious metals? Well, I tell them, first off, do you have a balanced portfolio otherwise, right? I think that people who have no precious metals in their portfolio are making a huge financial mistake, and I think that people whose entire net worth is in precious metals is also making a huge mistake, maybe even a bigger mistake. And yeah, that's coming from a guy who cares deeply, deeply about precious metals and has a whole freaking YouTube channel about it. So yes, I think that every balanced portfolio should have some precious metals in it, but not entirely made of precious metals. In fact, I had a friend that came to me and he said, I've got a few $1,000s that I want to invest in precious metals. What do you think I should do? And I said, well, have you maxed out your Roth IRA yet this year? And he said, no. And I said, well, before we even talk about precious metals, you should be maxing out your Roth IRA. If you don't know what a Roth IRA is, well, I did a whole video on it over here. You can check it out in the card over there. It is worth the watch. It is the only way to all but guarantee becoming a millionaire in the United States. And I am not joking about that, right? If you put money, if you max out your Roth IRA from age 18 to 65 when you retire, you will be almost guaranteed to be a millionaire by then. So in any case, I always max out my Roth IRA before I invest in anything else. And by the way, I should mention, you can invest in precious metals, in gold and silver, in your IRA or even in your 401k, and that is also a good viable option. But those investment frameworks of the IRA and the 401k, it's basically free money because you're getting either in the 401k, you're getting matched by your employer, and in the Roth IRA, anything that you earn, any interest you earn, any growth that you earn on your precious metals or stocks or bonds or whatever else you have in that portfolio, once you pull it out at retirement, it's tax-free. So you really, really do get some crazy benefits from the IRA and your 401k. So I would say that that is probably the first place to put your money. And then, honestly, whether you're doing it yourself or you're talking to a financial planner, you know, take a look and see what are the different things that you want to plan for in life, right? Do you want to invest in some stocks and try and grow your money more quickly? Do you want to hedge against inflation and protect your cash? Or do you want to have a rainy day fund? Those are all questions that you need to answer for yourself, and there's no one size fits all. The only answer that I can say that is one size fits all is having a diversified, balanced portfolio is right for everybody, right? Having stocks, having bonds, having real estate, having precious metals, et cetera, even today, crypto, right? Having a little bit of everything, and of course, in intelligent ratios, right? You don't want to have 90% crypto, you know, and then 5% cash, and then 5% everything else, right? But having it in a balanced, intelligent way that will set you up for long-term success. Remember, everybody who's watching, you probably all know this, but it doesn't hurt to be reminded, getting rich quick is a great way to get poor really quick. So try and be intelligent, try and research, try and learn, and if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Anyway, I know that that's a weird way to end this conversation about precious metals and investing in gold and silver and all of that, but it is an important thing, especially for my younger viewers who may not know as much about investing, and I don't want you guys to get scammed or tricked or hoodwinked or any of those other bad things. So for the beginning of 2024, I wish you all a very, very happy and prosperous new year. And I really, really do hope that if you're new to precious metals, that you do dip your toes in and you do get some gold and silver under your belt this year. And if you are a long-term veteran investor, well, I hope that you got some perspective from this video as well. Anyway, I make videos about coin collecting, precious metals investing, personal finance, and all sorts of other stuff every single week. So if you like that kind of content, please consider hitting the subscribe button and throw me a like while you're at it. It really helps me out, takes you just a second. Anyway, I've got a lot more awesome stuff coming down the pike, so stay tuned, and until then, Silver Picker out.